we shape our buildings, therefore they shape us. Hi, my name is Nigel Wynne. I'm from Ireland. For over 15 years now I've worked as an architectural designer. Projects, I've done a wide variety of projects, but probably one or two of the most interesting have been an actual floating hotel, and secondly, combining some of my own interests and passions, was to design a wake park in the Philippines. Inspiration would be for projects like locally here in Africa, there was a project done by NLE Architects. It was in Lagos, the metropolis of Lagos in Nigeria. It was an actual floating school. Now, what was kind of special about this was how they approached it from a very kind of ecological, sustainable point of view. The school itself was constructed out of materials, timber, sourced locally, and also they used just plastic barrels for the flotation of the school. So a project like this not only produces architecture, but it produces a building for the community. And you know, it's not just sustainability in the sense of materials, but also sustainability in the sense of the community and society there. Because the school was actually built for an area in Lagos which is called Makoko, and it's a slum. And currently a lot of the buildings are on stilts, but the problem with this is with climate change and rising sea levels, the existing school, this is how the project came about, came to be flooded, and this shows how an architect can bring value to a project by creatively thinking a new solution. Originally what I studied was industrial design. I wouldn't have got the grades to get into study architecture when I was younger, at 19 or 18, 19. So, but I knew after doing industrial design, architecture was definitely the way I wanted to progress. So I found a way of, I got a job within a practice, and I started off drafting within the practice, and they were very good to me. They let me do more sort of design projects, because with product design, like furniture, interiors. So I got a certain amount of these projects, and you know, I created projects that won awards, and slowly but surely built my way up within that practice to the point of maybe 2008, where one of the projects I did, which was the floating hotel, that was shortlisted for the World Architecture Awards. So while working, I was always keen to go back and formally qualify. So just recently, actually, the advantage of the recession over the last few years, it's allowed me to go back and complete the degree in architecture, and I will now complete the master's. And I'd say the funny thing is I knew going back to study, I always had a suspicion about that I may be dyslexic. So at 40, yeah, I got tested to see if I was dyslexic, and lo and behold, yes, I am. So I think for me then, yeah, it was a big fear then, sort of how I would sort of, I knew I could work in architecture, but how would I fare like academically in architecture? And so I was pleasantly surprised. Obviously I worked hard at it and completed the degree, but was awarded a first in it, and yeah, I have to say it's probably one of the best things I probably have done. So I would say to anyone that with dyslexia, I did actually get this book called, it was the Dyslexic Advantage. So actually people with dyslexia generally have very strong strengths. I have very high spatial relations, things like that, that allow me, that sit very well with careers like in architecture. So all I can say is, yeah, definitely don't rule out academics. Dyslexia doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative thing. I think actually for me it was a very positive thing. Generally, architecture is great because not only do you work with quite a diverse range of people with different skills, and you build a team off the strengths of each individual, but also you do quite a wide variety of work, from say model making to drawing to even to communication with clients, to maybe some of the more mundane stuff like administration. But as a career, yeah, it's the creativity side is really what drives me, and it's a great career because it just doesn't stop when you're 40, 50, 60. You know, you can do it right till you want to retire. The quote I probably do, and it's funny. It's not actually from an architect or anyone you might think of. It's actually from Winston Churchill, and he said, "We shape our buildings, therefore they shape us." And I thought it was a really interesting quote because it just really sums up the power of architecture, how it can sort of influence people by how we design buildings. You know, how it maybe creates how we use light, how we use the environment around it, for whether it be shade or natural ventilation. So yeah, it's just really that aspect, the power of architecture, and how it can shape not just us from space, but how it can shape communities, how it can make actually people, whether it be a public square, how it makes people interact. And you know, these are the things that are more about the humane elements of architecture, and that's what's important, the human, not some piece of architecture that screams ego or whatever else. It's really about the end users and how successful that is.